Well, each game, like every game's different. Every game's different. It's hard to talk generically because every week of preparation's different, and then what you're going to try to do is different, and what they do is different, and then the game situation unfolds, and that has its own elements, each individual game. So it'd be really hard to just put out a blanket statement there. I think because so much of it is specific to a particular game, situation, personnel, et cetera, et cetera.
How important is confidence in terms of maybe making on-the-fly decisions in game?
Yeah, well, preparation's a lot of that, but then once a game starts, then that trumps the preparation. So that's what Eisenhower said, right? For the battle, everything's about preparation. Once a battle starts, preparation doesn't mean anything. You got to adjust to what the battle is. So that's, I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Kind of the portion of the season that you're in right now. I mean, this has been from OTAs to training camp, passing camp, everything. It's all preparation, and then goes to Houston, right out of the chutes, and then it goes to. Are you guys ready to turn the page to being focused on one opponent instead of improving the New England Patriots to a point?
Yeah, well, we've done that the last 3 weeks. We've, in varying degrees, we gradually increased our preparation from Washington to Philadelphia to Carolina. Certainly not the level that it would be for a regular season game, but it's increased each week so that we can, as coaches, get ourselves into the right situation for the season, and players that they can adjust to the schedule, and also get their routine in terms of preparation, film study, personal, whether it's massages or tubs or treatments and so forth, rest, but, just managing all that together. So getting into, yeah, so we've gotten closer to that each week. We're not there yet, but we've gained on that process. Training camp is to prepare for a 16-game regular season schedule, and it's to prepare for the opener. It's a combination of those two things, and obviously to make the roster decisions, which both of those are part of that conversation. So it's not. It's more than, there's more than one thing involved in training camp.
Coach, Dante mentioned that with Trent, there's some situations that come up in a game here and there because he's making the transition from right tackle to left tackle. Is that something you've seen him progress in training camp, adjusting to new situations that he might have seen in a game that he hadn't seen before?
Definitely, and he's done a good job of that. There are things that come up every day. There are things that come up in games, as Dante alluded to, and for not just him, for everybody, but maybe a little more for him just because of the switch. But yeah, he's done a good job with that.
You impressed with anybody that can do that switch, the right tackle to left tackle? Because, like Matt Light, remember, I think he couldn't play right, and then he worked really well at left. It's tough for guys to be able to do both.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Vollmer did a good job of that, especially early in his career when he played. I think it was left tackle at Houston, then right tackle in the East-West game. Then we worked him at right tackle in training camp. Then he played left tackle against Freeney. So for a player that didn't have a lot of experience as a football player and didn't have a lot of experience in the NFL when that happened to him his rookie year, he ended up playing both sides. That was pretty good.
So one of the more impressive things you've seen, not to go back, but just when in '09, I think it was, when Vollmer lined up against Freeney, he hadn't had a lot of experience, about one of the best pass rushers in the league. If I remember right, he held his own.
He sure did, yeah. Sebastian is a player that improved tremendously in a very short period of time. He had trouble at Houston. He had trouble in the East-West game and the All-Star games. When we drafted him, we thought this was going to be a multi-year project. love everything about him, his intelligence, his length, his athleticism, his toughness, his work ethic. Just thought it would take a while. He has had a long way to go, and he closed the gap very, very quickly. So I think quicker than any of us could have realistically expected. But so by the time we got to this point in training camp, he'd made some pretty big strides. So I'd say it was maybe more surprising early, and then less surprising as we got into the season, because he jumped over a lot of landmarks or measuring sticks early in his career in that first training camp.
Bill, when evaluating players who fill out the back end of the roster, how do you weigh this fourth and final preseason game within the context of what they've done all summer? Is it just another data point, or does it mean a little bit more this recent?
Yeah, well, the most important thing in evaluating players is their improvement. So if a player is improving, then you're most likely to take the high water mark as opposed to where he was 3 weeks ago, when you feel like he's past that, and he's shown that that wasn't the player that he was. He's taken the experience, the coaching, the reps that he's had, and he's become more proficient at those things, whatever the position is, and so forth. So when you see that improvement, then you start to weigh what happened most recently over mistakes that were made a month ago, if you feel like those have been corrected and that we've moved past those. So that's the most important word for any player, young or old, but especially players with less experience. If they're improving, then you're most likely to look at what they've done most recently. If they're not improving, then again, you're most likely to look at what they've done most recently, which is less than what it was before, and that's usually not a good thing. Could be all right if it's high enough. I mean, the guy's a really good player, and it's just not as good as it used to be, but it's still better than everybody else, then that's good. But when a player starts at a lower level and is moving up, and if he's moving up and he's moving up at a good rate, and you think that rate's going to continue, then that carries a lot of weight. Even though he's not there yet, if you think he's going to get there, a lot of times you bank on that. Volmer would be a good example of what we were just talking about there. So, yeah, so it's all important. We evaluate everything, but if there's a rising trend, that carries a lot of weight. So this is the last opportunity, and if guys that have been improving the last couple of weeks can add on to that, it'll absolutely help them. It could help them a lot.
Coach, what's the realistic number of players that will get picked up after roster cuts? I think it'll be like 1,300 or 1,200 players next year. What's the realistic number that guys that are going to get picked up?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You'd have to look at the historical numbers, probably around 30 to 35, but it changes from year to year. And obviously it's specific to certain players and certain teams. So I think we can look at a lot of rosters, our rosters, and other rosters that we've studied, and say if this player makes the roster and this other player is released to the league, there's going to be a lot of action on that player. So I think we can identify a number of those players. But they're specific to those players. There's a lot of other players I think you can put in the other category that are going to be available, and there probably won't be a lot of activity on those players. Maybe at the practice squad level, but on the roster level, not as many. So.
Do you have an idea who those players are right now, even?
Absolutely, yeah. What do you think we've been doing?
I'm saying on other teams. I understand that you have players on your team.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Players on other teams also. That other players, for specific to.
Yeah, we're looking at all 31 teams. Yeah, what do you think we're doing? We're in camp. We don't have watermelon rolls and badminton contests and all that. Yeah, we're working on football. We look at our team. We look at 31 teams. Yeah.
Almost doing the games in German.
Yeah, we got Sebastian doing them in German. We got Roll doing them in Spanish, Mexican. Yeah, we got it all covered.
You ever tune in?
Yeah, I wouldn't That was one of Sebastian's part of the rookie skit. Rookies didn't have much material, which they usually don't, and I suggested to him, why don't you just get up there and like, imitate the head coach and say what I would say in German. So he did. Nobody knew what he said, but it was pretty entertaining. He had a great sense of humor. Yeah, Sebastian he had a really good sense of humor.
In terms of trade talk, is this one of the busiest weeks? Can you just calling and players?
Again, it depends. I'm sure we've already seen a couple of transactions in the last few days. There's a lot of talking. We'll see how much actually gets done. Again, you can talk about things. That's fairly common. To actually find something that works for one team, that works for the other team, that both teams want to do is less common, but I'm sure it's going to happen. Again, at this point in time, it's a little bit of a make an educated guess as to who's going to be available and who isn't. If you feel like you have to trade up for a player to get the player, then you're more likely to make the trade if you think you can get the player without trading for him. Or if you have 2 or 3 players that if you get any one of those, you'd feel like that would help your team and doesn't necessarily have to be one particular one, then maybe you're not as anxious to trade and you wait and see what's available. And like I said, if you get any one of 2 or 3 guys, then you feel like you're all right, then you're less inclined to make the trade. So I think it's all very specific. Your team, your needs, the player, what the compensation is, the contract. I mean, there's a lot of things, and then it has to fall in place going the other direction too. The other team getting another player that comparable value, draft pick, salaries, so forth. So it's a lot more talking than there is trading.
Final question.
There's always conversation, especially around this time of year, about the length of the preseason and the necessity for preseason. You started when there were 6. I know the off-season, other sessions and all that stuff's fine. Do you have an opinion on what the idea would be?
I don't know any difference what my opinion is. We have an agreement, we have a collective bargaining agreement between the players and the National Football League, so it is what it is for all the teams, so that's what we work with. And so I'll leave it to you guys, some of the other experts, to comment on that. I'm just trying to coach a football team, and we have our parameters, and that's what we're working with.
We do value your
All right.
opinion.
Thank you. All right.